Part 15. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanjie. Chapter 141. Li Jie looked at Suyisha and felt that she seemed to be in a low mood today, completely losing the energy she had when playing yesterday. Okay, seeing her insistence, he nodded and agreed. It's just that the tickets and photo coupons were all paid for. The two walked out of the Strahov monastery and came outside the monastery. Li Jie opened the long package in his hand and took out an electronic instrument similar in appearance to a tennis racket. Then he took this electronic instrument and circled the monastery in the nearby woods and meadows. Suyisha glanced at the electronic instrument in Li Jie's hand and asked curiously, "What is that in your hand?" "Detector," Li Jie walked, holding a metal detector and sweeping it around on the ground. "Detector? Did you come to the Czech Republic to find something?" Suyisha was very surprised. Li Jie glanced at her and said in a joking tone, "Actually, I'm here to hunt for treasure." "Do you know where the treasure is?" "I just don't know, so I have to look around." "Maybe I'll find something if I'm lucky," Li Jie said with a smile to her. Suyisha. She felt that this seemed unreliable. "Did he?" At this time, the metal detector suddenly rang. "Did you find anything?" Suyisha asked. "I found something." Li Jie dug in the ground with a wooden stick and pulled out a very rusty nail. "I walked around the monastery all morning, looking through the nearby woods and grasslands. I found a number of rusty nails, pieces of scrap iron, small pieces of scrap iron, etc. Of course, what I found was not all garbage, there were also valuable things. A dozen coins were found. Czech coins, as well as coins issued during the Czechoslovak period. The most valuable is a Czechoslovak silver coin issued in 1929, which has some collection value." Suyisha sat under a small tree to rest in the shade. Watching Li Jie wandering around not far away with a metal detector, she felt more and more that treasure hunting was unreliable and was like looking for a needle in a haystack. "Did he?" The metal detector in Li Jie's hand beeped again. He dug on the ground for a while with a wooden stick and dug out a ring. He picked up the ring, wiped the dirt off it, looked at it, and said with a smile, "I found something valuable." "What did you find?" Suyisha got interested and stood up from under the tree and walked over. "Isn't this just a ring?" "Throughout the morning, I also found a few small jewelry such as rings and earrings, but they were all made of copper or silver and were not valuable." "Take a closer look." Li Jie handed the ring to her. Suyisha took it and played with it, glanced at Li Jie, and said a little uncertainly, "Is this gold?" "Yes. This ring is old and has faded and turned black. Judging from the style and craftsmanship, it doesn't look like a modern one. It should be from the Czechoslovak period." Suyisha played with the ring again and was about to return it to Li Jie. Li Jie glanced at the ring but didn't take it. "Take it?" "No, I can't have this, it's too expensive." Suyisha shook her head quickly. "This ring weighs about 10 grams, and is worth more than 2,000 based on gold prices. Whatever it is, I picked it up for free. Just take it and treat it as a souvenir from me." "Then I can't have it either." Li Jie glanced at Suyisha. This girl was not greedy, which was a good thing. "If you don't want it, just throw it on the ground and pretend you didn't find it. I will definitely not take back what you gave away." After saying that, he walked forward. "It's already noon, let's go find a restaurant to eat." Suyisha glanced at Li Jie who was walking in front, then looked at the ring in his hand, put it away, and then chased after him. For lunch, the two of them ate at the restaurant next to the monastery and ordered some local food, including grilled sausages, stewed beef, roasted pork knuckles, salads, steamed bun slices, and beer. The food of the Czech people is a bit similar to that of Germany. They mainly eat meat, and they especially like to eat pork. There are very few fruits and vegetables. When people from China come here, it is okay to eat it occasionally, but they will definitely not like it after a long time. After the meal was served, Li Jie and Suyisha chatted while eating. Are you still going around in the afternoon? Suyisha asked. No, Li Jie shook his head. In the whole morning, I have searched the nearby woods and grasslands. This is not the burial place. Senior sister, why don't you eat? Is it not to your liking? Li Jie noticed that Suyisha only ate a few bites of salad and drank some beer, then stopped eating. No, I just have no appetite. Suyisha smiled, feeling a little depressed. You didn't eat much this morning. Li Jie looked at Suyisha carefully and found that her face was pale and haggard, worse than in the morning. Senior sister, are you sick? Seeing Li Jie looking at her with concern, Suyisha couldn't help but be touched in her heart. A burst of sadness and grievance came to her heart, and she felt like crying. In this foreign country, she felt a little fragile and sensitive. She bit her lip and suppressed her emotions. Well, I feel a little uncomfortable. Then let me take you to see a doctor, Li Jie said a little worriedly. Getting sick abroad is no small matter. What about your schedule? Suyisha said softly. It won't matter if it takes a day or two. Your health is important. Li Jie smiled at her. He had a very tight schedule and was planning to go back before the new year, but there was nothing he could do if he encountered such an unexpected situation. People are sick, and it's really inhumane for him to drag her around again. Li Jie felt that his trip to the Czech Republic was really not smooth. First, the translator he had appointed gave up the job, and then he finally found a suitable candidate. As a result, the translator fell ill again as soon as he arrived in the Czech Republic. When he found out that Suyisha was sick, he didn't want to eat anymore. He paid and left the restaurant, and took a taxi with her to a large private hospital. If you don't have medical insurance, you won't be reimbursed if you go to a public hospital, and Li Jie also heard that the conditions in private hospitals abroad are better. When I came to the hospital, I asked a nurse and was told that you need to make an appointment to see a doctor. If you need an emergency, you can also go to the emergency room. So Li Jie took Suyisha to the emergency room again. As for making appointments, it is said that the efficiency of medical treatment abroad is very low. Public hospitals have to queue up for a long time to make appointments. Although private appointments are more efficient, they still have to wait in line. In fact, it is the same in China. It may take several months for well-known large hospitals to register as experts. When they came to the emergency room and saw the nurse, they first asked about Suyisha's condition. After learning that she had a fever, they gave her a fever-reducing medicine and asked them to wait. In fact, Suyisha doesn't have much fever, just a little low fever, but if you don't tell it's serious, she might not even go to the emergency room. Keep asking for votes and favorites. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanjie. Chapter 142. Her symptoms were mainly chest tightness, nausea, low-grade fever, loss of appetite, and malaise. In Li Jie's opinion, she either had a cold or was acclimatized. Of course, he wasn't sure, so he took her to the hospital to see her. After all, getting sick was no big deal, not to mention that she was abroad. After waiting for more than 3 hours, I saw the doctor, a man in his 40s with a small beard and a somewhat cold attitude. He asked Suyisha a few questions, then prescribed her a few more pills and ended the consultation. It didn't take more than 5 minutes, and they didn't even take her temperature. Coming out of the consultation room, Li Jie asked Suyisha, "What did he tell you?" Suyisha's spirit got a little worse. He said, "I just had a cold and asked me to go back and rest more. He also prescribed a few antipyretics for me. He said I should take them if I have a fever. If I don't have a fever, I don't need to take them." Li Jie couldn't help but feel a little speechless. He felt that the doctor's ability to treat patients was not as good as his mother's. His mother is a rural doctor in a village and runs a small private health clinic. Come on, let's go back to the hotel and rest. In the taxi back to the hotel, Suyisha suddenly vomited. Not only did Li Jie pay a sum of money, but the two of them were kicked out of the car by the angry driver. After taking another taxi back to the hotel, Li Jie helped Suyisha get out of the taxi and looked at her weak look. "Senior, how about I carry you?" Suyisha avoided his eyes and said softly. She felt a little embarrassed. She actually vomited in the car just now and even vomited on Li Jie. Although Li Jie didn't mind at all and was always taking care of her and advised her not to take it to heart, she still felt so embarrassed. Li Jie let Suyisha lie on his back, then carried her into the hotel, came to the door of the room, put Suyisha down, asked her to take out the room card, opened the door, and helped her in. Let Suyisha lean on the bed. Li Jie glanced at the spit-stained coat in his hand, and noticed that Suyisha also had some stains on her body. "Senior sister, why don't you change clothes first, and I'll go back to the room." "Go change your clothes and come back." "Li Jie, I'm sorry, you hired me to be a translator, but I didn't help at all. Instead, you kept taking care of me and delayed your work." Suyisha looked at Li Jie, said with an apologetic look. This was the first time she changed her name to Li Jie. Li Jie didn't notice the change of her title. He smiled casually and said, "Okay, you've already apologized to me several times, so don't apologize anymore. We should support each other when we are abroad. I believe even if I'm sick, you won't leave me alone, right?" "Well," Suyisha looked at him, her eyes flashing. Li Jie returned to his room, threw the dirty coat aside, and sighed. It was impossible to say that he was not depressed at all because his schedule was delayed. But Li Jie is very sensible and knows that Suyisha cannot be blamed for this. Taking anger out on others is the most incompetent sign. On the contrary, Suyisha was a girl in a foreign country. She had relationship problems and was sick again. She was in a sensitive and fragile state and needed more care and attention. Li Jie smelled the smell of vomit on his body and couldn't help frowning. He was a little disgusted by Suyisha, who vomited all over him in the taxi just now. It was just because she was a beauty, otherwise, he would also, "You have to take care of her, but her attitude will definitely not be so good. After all, humans have emotions." He took off all his clothes, went to the bathroom for a brief shower, changed into clean clothes, and then went to Suyisha's room again. Arriving at the door, Li Jie pressed the doorbell and waited for a while, but there was no movement inside. He rang the doorbell again, but still no movement. Li Jie couldn't help but worry whether Suyisha's condition had worsened, so he took her room card and opened the door. Suyisha's room card was still in his hand because Li Jie forgot to return it to her after opening the door. When he came into the house, Li Jie found that Suyisha was missing on the bed, and the sound of gurgling water came from the bathroom. Taking Suyisha's room card and swiping the card to open the door, Li Jie found that Suyisha was missing on the bed. "Senior, are you taking a shower?" After a few seconds, Suyisha's voice came from the bathroom. "Li Jie, why are you back so soon?" "Senior, didn't I tell you not to take a shower first?" Li Jie frowned slightly. Suyisha's body is too weak to stand firmly, and she is not suitable for bathing. Especially in the closed and stuffy bathroom environment, accidents can easily happen. "I feel better, so I just want to wash it off briefly. The smell on my body is so, I really can't stand it." Li Jie was shaken in his heart. After spending a few days with Suyisha, he discovered that she seemed to be a bit misophobic and her cleaning standards were a bit too high. However, he didn't expect that she was struggling to even move. She couldn't bear it and wanted to take a bath. "Okay, then don't wash for too long. I'll wash it right away." "Ah!" Thump. Suyisha suddenly exclaimed in the middle of speaking, and then heard a splash from the bathroom. Knowing that something had happened, Li Jie hurriedly came to the bathroom door and asked nervously, "Senior, what's wrong with you?" Are you okay? It hurts, oh, it hurts so much, Suyisha said intermittently in the bathroom with a crying voice. I told you not to take a bath, but you refused to listen. Something happened this time. Although he was complaining in his heart, Li Jie was relieved when he heard Suyisha's voice. If you can cry and feel pain, it means you didn't hit any vital points, so it's not a big deal. Senior, can you still move? Let me try. Ah. It hurts me so much. Li Jie, my leg seems to be broken, I can't move, Weevu, what should I do? Please help me. In the bathroom, Suyisha was in pain again. I was scared and cried aggrievedly. She felt so unlucky. Li Jie was a little anxious when Suyisha said it was so serious, and he was also a little upset when she cried. Sister, I want to help you too, but I can't get in. Huh. He subconsciously turned the door handle and found that the bathroom door was unlocked. When he opened the door, he saw that in the mist-filled bathroom, the shower head was still spraying water, and Suyisha was lying naked on the tile floor. Li Jie couldn't help being stunned. His first reaction was that it was so white, and his second reaction was that it was so exciting. Li Jie, what should I do? I quit. Suyisha completely forgot that she was naked now and cried to Li Jie. She was very embarrassed by the shower, and the water spray soaked her whole body. Take this to test a man, which man can stand this test? Li Jie came to his senses and did not dare to look any further. He looked away and quickly came to Suyisha's side. He turned off the shower, picked up the bath towel hanging on the wall, wrapped it around her, then took another dry towel and started to wipe the water from her face and hair. Thanks to Mo Shangyuxia for the 700-point reward, thanks to the bricklayer for the 300-point reward, and thanks to Wanyan 6, Wind and Rain Autumn Burning, Loading Go, and others for their rewards. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanjie. Chapter 143. At this time, Suyisha realized that she was actually stared at by Li Jiequan. She blushed so much that she almost bled, and she was so embarrassed that she wanted to find a crack in the ground to crawl in. Li Jie, she said hesitantly. Senior sister, I also take matters into my own hands. You won't blame me, right? Li Jie found a place to go down the stairs. In his hurry, he forgot that he could actually call the waiter for help, but now that people were rushing in, it would be even more unclear if he exited again. Definitely not, you are also here to help me, Suyisha said quickly along the steps. Senior, let me carry you out first, Li Jie said, putting one arm around Suyisha's shoulders and the other around her legs, trying to pick her up. Ah, it hurts so much, please be gentle, Suyisha frowned in pain. Why does this sound a little wrong? Seeing that Suyisha said it hurt, Li Jie's already gentle movements became slower and he slowly picked her up. He carried Suyisha out of the bathroom, came to the bed, put her on the bed, and pulled the quilt over her, before he let out a sigh of relief. This is too tempting. Senior, where did you fall and where does it hurt the most? Suyisha blushed and glanced at Li Jie with tears in her eyes. I slipped in the bathroom and sprained my foot, I fell on my leg and it hurt a lot. She said hesitantly. Senior, let me check you first. If it's serious, we'll go to the hospital, okay? Li Jie opened the quilt a little and looked at Suyisha's feet first. He found that her left ankle was a little red and swollen. He reached out and touched it and felt it was a little hot, so he tried to press it lightly. Ah! It hurts. Suyisha screamed in pain and subconsciously shrank her feet. Li Jie glanced at her and said, Senior sister, let me check it carefully for you to see if you have injured any muscles or bones. It may be a little painful, So please bear with it. Suyisha bit her lip and said yeah, then please be gentle. Li Jie held her ankle with one hand, carefully explored the ankle position with the other hand, and then held her ankle and tried to move it twice. Ah, it hurts, please be gentle, Suyisha bit her lip, sucking in the cold air, with tears in her eyes from the pain. Sister, can you please stop doing this? As if I did something to you. It's nothing serious, just a sprain. Hearing Suyisha scream so miserably, Li Jie thought it was serious. After checking, he found that it was nothing serious. Although he was not a doctor, he could still tell the difference between a simple sprain and a broken bone. I'll put some ice on you later and you should be fine after you rest for 2 or 3 days. Li Jie opened the quilt further and helped Suyisha check the injury on her legs. Her legs were not the kind of chopstick legs. They felt very fleshy, but not thick at all, straight and stylish. Senior, where are your legs injured? Li Jie touched both of her legs from bottom to top. He checked them again and found no injuries. You go up a little further. Suyisha avoided his eyes and said with a blushing embarrassment. A little further up, a little further up. Li Jie finally understood why Suyisha was hesitant just now. She injured her hip. Touching the fleshy buttocks, he was immediately relieved. The swelling was a bit serious, but the bones would definitely not be damaged. After all, the buttocks were thick and resistant to falls. Moreover, Suyisha was also gifted, so she was even more resistant to falls. Don't worry, it's okay. Are you really okay? Suyisha said a little nervously. I feel like I can't move my whole left leg. It's okay, Li Jie smiled comfortingly at her. It's just that the fall was a bit hard. I'm going to get you ice cubes and give you a cold compress. It will relieve your pain soon. But I guess it won't be convenient to get out of bed these 2 days. Li Jie took ice cubes from the small refrigerator and wrapped it in a clean towel. Then he returned to the bed and sat down. He held her ankle with one hand and used an ice towel to apply cold compress to the sprained area with the other hand. Hiss. Suyisha couldn't help but take a breath. Does it hurt? Li Jie glanced at her and asked. It doesn't hurt very much, it just feels cold and a bit irritating, Suyisha said, biting her lip. While Li Jie helped Suyisha apply ice, he looked at her little feet. Her feet are really not big, only size 36. Her white feet are very fleshy and beautiful, her round and cute little toes are pink and tender, and her fingernails are painted with red nail polish. Even though he doesn't have any special hobbies, he still thinks these little feet are particularly beautiful. Are you ready? Suyisha said softly with a red face. She was a little embarrassed to see Li Jie staring at her feet. It's almost here, just leave it on for another 2 or 3 minutes and it'll be fine. Li Jie also felt a little embarrassed and quickly looked away. To be honest, he had never stared at Xiao Jiao or Zhou Zio's feet like this. Well, you can take a look next time. Their feet seem to be very nice too. After giving Suyisha a cold compress for a few minutes, Li Jie let go of her little feet. That part. I'll do it myself, Suyisha said quickly with a blush. Okay, Li Jie handed her the ice towel. He was really not suitable to help her apply it to that area. Seeing Suyisha applying the injured part under the quilt while biting her lip and sucking in the cold air, Li Jie felt that the scene was a bit too tempting and sinful, so he quickly averted his eyes. Don't do anything that involves judgment. He thought for a while and said, Senior sister, you put it on yourself first, and I'll go buy something. Li Jie went out, and when the door was closed again, Suyisha suddenly took a breath and relaxed. She touched her face and found that it was extremely hot. She really didn't dare to face Li Jie. Her face was completely embarrassed in front of him. She was drunk and acted out after being broken up, she was sick and vomited all over him, and now he saw her naked and even let him touch her. Suyisha felt so ashamed. For some reason, in front of this boy who was several years younger than her, She lost her usual strength and completely exposed her fragile and sensitive side. More than half an hour later, Li Jie came back carrying a plastic bag. "What did you buy?" Suyisha took a look and asked. "I bought some honey and some tea." Li Jie smiled at her and said, "Aren't you sick? I'll get you something to drink." In his opinion, Suyisha's illness was not a cold at all, as the doctor said, but a serious acclimatization. If you buy some Huaxiang Genki pills and Baohe pills at home and take a rest for a day or two, you will be fine. However, it was difficult to buy traditional Chinese medicine abroad, so Li Jie thought about getting her something to drink to relieve her symptoms. "So I went to the supermarket to buy some honey and black tea and came back, preparing to make some black tea and honey water for Suyisha to drink." Acclimatization is related to weak spleen and stomach. Honey can not only strengthen the spleen and stomach, but also has a calming and soothing effect, thus promoting sleep. Tea contains a variety of trace elements, which can promptly supplement the deficiencies of trace elements contained in local food and water. Still asking for votes. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanjie. Chapter 144. Li Jie took honey and black tea to the tea machine, boiled water, and made a cup of black tea and honey water. Bringing the tea to the bed, he first helped Suyisha sit up and lean on the bed, then handed the tea to her. "Senior sister, have a cup of black tea and honey water. After drinking, take a nap and wait. When you wake up, you won't feel so uncomfortable." Suyisha took the tea with a hum sound, blew on it, and drank it in small sips. She glanced at Li Jie, who was sitting next to her, and said softly, "I'm sorry, I was thinking of taking a day off, and when I got better, we would continue our trip, but I accidentally fell down again because of my clumsiness. It seems that I can no longer fulfill the contract. How about you just leave me alone and find another translator to continue the trip?" "Okay, don't think too much. Taking good care of your body is more important than anything else," Li Jie said, smiling and reaching out to touch her head. Suyisha didn't expect that he would do this, and was stunned. Li Jie also felt a little regretful, feeling that he was a little too reckless and should not have made such an intimate move. He touched the heads of Xiao Qiao and Zhou Ziyu. He was used to touching them, so he subconsciously extended his hand. He pretended to be nonchalant and rubbed her head again before taking back his hand. Suyisha looked at him strangely and said nothing. After a few minutes, when he saw Suyisha finished drinking, Li Jie took the cup from her hand and put it aside. "Senior sister, you can take a nap." He helped her lie down again, covered her with the quilt, then stood up and prepared to leave. "Li Jie," Suyisha suddenly stopped him. "What, senior sister, do you have anything else to do?" Li Jie asked. Suyisha looked at him and said hesitantly, "Can you wait until I fall asleep before leaving?" Li Jie was stunned for a moment, then nodded with a smile, "Okay." He pulled up a chair and sat down next to her bed again. "Senior, then you can sleep." Suyisha glanced at him again, and then slowly closed her eyes. Li Jie leaned on the chair and looked at her quietly. After a while, he felt a little sleepy and yawned. He glanced at Suyisha on the bed and found that her eyes were still moving under her eyelids, obviously not asleep yet. Last night, Li Jie settled down the drunk Suyisha. When he returned to the room, it was already past 11 o'clock. Then he typed 2 more chapters of the novel. It was almost 2 o'clock when he went to bed. Today he got up early and had a busy day. "I'm really feeling sleepy now." It would take a while for her to fall asleep, so Li Jie closed his eyes and prepared to squint. And he fell asleep as soon as he squinted. When Li Jie woke up again, he was awakened by a cry of pain. Oops! He opened his eyes and found that it was already dark and the room was dark. With the light coming from the window, he saw Suyisha falling to the ground beside the bed. Li Jie quickly turned on the light and stepped forward to help her up. "Senior, why did you fall again?" Suyisha clutched the bath towel tightly, frowned, suppressed her blush, and looked very painful. Li Jie helped her lie down on the bed, pulled the quilt over her and asked with concern, "Does it hurt? Did you fall and hurt it?" Suyisha looked at him with a blushing face, but hesitated to speak. "I want to go." "Where do you want to go?" "To the hospital," Li Jie asked. "I want to go to the bathroom." After saying this, Suyisha blushed so much that she almost bled. She avoided Li Jie's eyes and did not dare to look at her again. She originally saw Li Jie asleep and didn't want to disturb him, so she thought of going to the bathroom quietly. Unexpectedly, she couldn't use her sprained foot. When she got out of bed, the pain was severe when her foot touched the ground. She fell again as soon as she couldn't stand firm. "Go to the bathroom." Li Jie was stunned for a moment when he heard this. He wanted to laugh a little, but he held it back and did not dare to laugh. He was afraid that Suyisha would die of embarrassment. "Senior, shall I take you there?" "Yeah," he lowered his head in embarrassment and responded softly. Li Jie put his arm around her shoulders and picked up her calves with the other hand to pick her up. Looking at Suyisha, who was only wrapped in a bath towel in her arms, the Adam's apple in his throat couldn't help but roll. The delicate collarbone and proud curves were looming under the towel, and the two straight, slender, and voluptuous legs were also visible. Exposed to the air, the round and lovely toes were slightly curled due to nervousness. Take this to test a man. Which man can stand this test? He already had a physiological reaction when he woke up, but when faced with this kind of temptation, he really couldn't control it. Suyisha also noticed something strange about Li Jie, and she couldn't help but panic and became nervous. She said in a trembling voice, "Li Jie, why don't you leave?" Li Jie glanced at Suyisha, who looked flustered and nervous. He suddenly calmed down a lot and suppressed his anger. He quickly walked into the bathroom with her in his arms, put her on the toilet, then said, "Call me when you're done," and hurried out. After closing the bathroom door, Li Jie couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. What is this thing called? He actually had to wait on someone else's girlfriend to go to the bathroom. Neither Xiaoqiao nor Zhouziu had ever served him like this before. After waiting for more than 10 minutes, Suyisha's shy voice came from the bathroom, "That's it?" Li Jie opened the bathroom door again and saw her sitting on the toilet, clutching the towel tightly as before. "Is this the end?" He stepped forward and picked her up again, walked out of the bathroom, returned to the room, put her back on the bed, and pulled the quilt to cover her. Suyisha buried her head in the quilt in embarrassment and stopped talking. Li Jie also felt that the atmosphere was very awkward. He took out his cell phone and took a look and found that it was already past 8 p.m. Li Jie remembered that it was around 5 p.m. before he fell asleep, which meant that he slept for almost 3 hours. "Senior, do you feel better after a good night's sleep?" "Yeah," Suyisha in the quilt snorted lightly. "How about I make you another cup of black tea and honey water?" "No need," Suyisha said quickly. She dared to drink water again. Now that she couldn't move, could she ask Li Jie for help if she wanted to go to the bathroom again? "Are you hungry? Let me order some food for you," Li Jie thought for a while and asked again. "No need, I'm not hungry." Suyisha was actually a little hungry, but she didn't dare to eat because she didn't have to go to the bathroom after eating. Li Jie also guessed Suyisha's concerns at this time. He took out a bottle of water from the small refrigerator and placed it on the bedside table. "Senior, I put a bottle of water next to the bed. If you are particularly thirsty, just take a sip. If nothing happens, I'll go back." Boom. The door was gently closed, and after confirming that he had left, Suyisha pulled off the quilt and exposed her head. "Ah, it's so embarrassing." But for some reason, Li Jie's gentle, calm, and handsome face couldn't help but appear in her mind. "Thank you for your hard work in opening a new account. Partia has a big and round butt for the reward. Thank you to Yihuaran, ZYZYZY Fan Chen, Logo GMO, Wanyan 6, YLF Wunian, Sui Feng Bankruptcy, Devil's Kite, and the 7 Bitch Descendants. Xiaoyao Kong 8's Reward. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 145. After going to the restaurant to have a quick bite, Li Zhe went to the bathroom to take a shower after returning to the room. After coming out of the shower, he thought for a while, picked up his cell phone and called Zhou Ziyu. Zhou Ziyu was practicing yoga when she received a call from Li Zhe. She had been shopping with Shenqing for a day today and was actually very tired, but she still insisted on exercising. After being with Li Zhe, she paid more attention to the maintenance of her appearance and figure. Zhou Ziyu stopped, picked up the phone and saw that it was Li Zhe's number, and quickly connected, husband. Zhou Qing, who was watching TV on the side, heard the word husband and couldn't help but said, "Is that Li Zhe's phone number?" Zhou Ziyu glanced at her and said, "Yes." Li Zhe realized something on the other side of the phone. "Ziyu, is there anyone around you?" "Yes," Zhou Ziyu said slowly and softly, "my mother is also in the hotel with me." After she finished speaking, she turned on the speakerphone, and then said to Shenqing, "Mom, it's so late, aren't you going back?" "Why do you think I'm hindering you?" Zhou Qing said a little dissatisfied. For the past 2 days, she had been watching houses, going shopping, watching movies, and eating in high-end restaurants with her daughter. She was a little too happy to miss home and didn't even go back home. Zhou Ziyu smiled at her, turned off the speakerphone again, and took the phone to the bathroom. When she came to the bathroom, she turned on the shower, and then said to Li Zhe, "Hubby, do you have a problem with me?" "It's okay, I just miss you," Li Zhe said in a low voice. He found that after breaking through the bottom line in his heart, his ability to resist temptation dropped sharply. Just now in Suyisha's room, he almost couldn't control himself and pounced on Suyisha. Fortunately, he kept the final bottom line and would never do anything to damage other people's feelings. Even if he feels that Suyisha has a good impression of him, if he takes advantage of it, the possibility of success is extremely high. His family was destroyed by others, and he cannot change from a victim to a perpetrator. It's just that the inner restlessness is under control, but the physical restlessness is difficult to control. After taking a hot bath, Li Zhe felt more restless and subconsciously called Zhou Ziyu. On the other side of the phone, Zhou Ziyu felt something from his voice. "Hubby, are you feeling uncomfortable?" "Well, I want you." Li Zhe's voice became deeper and deeper. Zhou Ziyu thought for a while, bit her lip and said, "Hubby, how about I help you?" Li Zhe was stunned for a moment and thought to himself, "Thousands of kilometers away, how can you help me?" At this time, Zhou Ziyu's unusually depressed voice came from the other side of the phone. After more than 20 minutes, Li Zhe hung up the phone and let out a sigh of relief. This was the first time in his life that he played the phone love game with a girl. But after the phone call, he not only did not relax, but was seduced by Zhou Ziyu, making him even more uncomfortable. After thinking about it, he sent another message to Xiaoqiao. When Xiaoqiao received Li Zhe's text message, she was watching TV with her mother in the living room. The TV show was double-sided tape. Mother Qiao sighed while watching TV. "Xiaoqiao, if you get married in the future, you will definitely not find such an irresponsible man." Xiaoqiao smiled and said, "Mom, what are you talking about? It's still too early for me to get married. You are a big girl now, you will get married sooner or later." Beep. Hearing the phone vibrate, Xiaoqiao took out the phone to look at it, chuckled, and put away the phone. After sitting for a while, she said to Mother Qiao, "Mom, I'm going back to sleep." Mother Qiao glanced at her and said, "The show will be over soon, won't you watch it?" "I won't read anymore." I'm a little sleepy and want to go to bed early. Back in the bedroom, Xiao Jiao pulled the quilt and hid inside, then dialed Li Zhe's phone. "Hubby, do you miss me?" There was unconcealable joy in her voice. After chatting with Xiao Jiao for a while and hanging up the phone, Li Zhe's restless body finally calmed down. He really missed Xiao Jiao. Different from Zhou, he missed her from the bottom of his heart. Zhou walked out of the bathroom and returned to the room with blushing cheeks and a strange charm, which made Zhou Qing couldn't help but look at her a few more times. "Xiao, what were you two talking about?" "Nothing to talk about," Zhou said absently. "You have to hide in the bathroom to make a phone call." "Are you afraid that I will eavesdrop?" Zhou Qing muttered dissatisfiedly. Zhou came back to her senses, glanced at her, smiled and said nothing. Her intuition told her that there must be another woman beside Li Zhe, and she was very beautiful. He couldn't resist the temptation, so he called her urgently. "It's a pity that she couldn't just now." "It depends on Xiao Jiao," Zhou said in her heart. Based on her understanding of Li Zhe, he would definitely call Xiao Jiao again after hanging up her phone. She just hopes that Xiao Jiao can be more powerful. She doesn't want another competitor to appear so soon. On the 30th, Li Zhe took care of Suyisha for another day. After a night's rest, Suyisha was finally able to get out of bed and walk around, avoiding the most embarrassing scene, and the two of them got along much more naturally. It was said that he was taking care of her, but in fact, Li Zhe just stayed with Suyisha for a while and talked to make her feel less lonely. When a person is outside alone, what he fears most is getting sick and having no one to take care of him or care about him. This was something he had experienced firsthand. The other thing is to help her order food, make some black tea and honey water, and do other simple things. On the morning of the 31st, after Li Zhe got up and washed up, he came to see Suyisha. He rang the doorbell. After waiting for a long time, there was no movement. Then he rang the doorbell again, but there was no movement. Did she go out? Li Zhe took out his mobile phone and called Suyisha. After answering the call, he asked and learned that she had indeed gone out. More than half an hour later, Li Zhe saw her in the restaurant. The two ordered some food and chatted while eating. "Senior sister, your injury has just healed a little bit. You should pay more attention to rest and don't move around in a hurry." Li Zhe glanced at Suyisha. Suyisha heard the blame in Li Zhe's words, but she just smiled and said nothing. "Senior sister, I have to go out today to find another monastery. You can have a good rest in the hotel." Li Zhe felt that he had done a lot for Suyisha and that he had done his utmost benevolence. He could not waste all his time on her. He should also be busy with his own affairs. Suyisha smiled and nodded. "I'm much better and can take care of myself." "Li Zhe, just feel free to go about your business. By the way, this is for you." As she spoke, she took out a small notebook from her pocket and handed it to him. This." Li Zhe took the book and opened it, and found that it was full of the name and address of the monastery, and it was bilingual in Czech and Chinese. Keep asking for votes and favorites. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 146. This is what I asked local people about. There are 5 monasteries in Bohemia. Currently, I have only asked about these more famous ones. You can go and have a look first, and I will help you ask about the rest slowly. Senior, thank you, Li Zhe said apologetically to Suyisha. He also blamed her for running around. In fact, she was injured and went to help him inquire about things early in the morning. Suyisha glanced at him and said with a smile, "You have helped me so much, and this is the only thing I can do for you. If I am not injured, I can still go with you." Now I can see you busy alone. Actually, you did me the greatest favor by finding out these addresses. Li Jie looked at the names of the monasteries in the small book: Brno Capuchin Monastery, Trappist Monastery, Kutna Ora Monastery. He decided to go to the Capuchin Monastery in Brno first. It was marked in the book that this monastery was the most famous. After breakfast, Li Jie sent Suyisha back to her room, then left the hotel and went to the train station, bought a ticket and got on the train to Brno. Brno is the capital of South Moravia province in the Czech Republic and the second largest city in the Czech Republic. It is an important industrial center and railway hub with a population of 385,700. Li Jie took a train for almost 3 hours before arriving in Brno, and then took a taxi to Capuchin Monastery. Capuchin Monastery is famous for its gruesomeness, and its eerie basement displays the mummies of many 18th-century monks and local nobles. This is also the resting place of many Capuchin monks. Today, 24 perfectly intact mummies can be seen in the catacombs, all wearing burqas and some holding rosaries or crosses. After Li Jie arrived at the Capuchin Monastery, he found that there were not many woods and grasslands near the monastery. He took the metal detector and searched it for less than half an hour. He only found a few coins of valuable things. Another trip was in vain. Li Jie realized that he had arrived in too hasty. He should have found the locations of all the monasteries on Google Maps first, and he could have eliminated those without woods or grass around them. I took a taxi back to Brno and took another 3 hours of train ride before returning to Prague. By the time Li Jie returned to the hotel, it was already past 5 o'clock in the evening. When she came to Suyisha's door, she rang the doorbell and waited for a while, then Suyisha opened the door. Li Jie, you are back. Senior sister, how is your recovery? Seeing that Suyisha was still limping a little when walking, Li Jie stepped forward to support her and helped her back to the bed. I'm feeling much better again. I think I'll be able to take action with you after 2 more days of rest, Suyisha said with a smile. I inquired about 6 more monasteries this afternoon, but some of them only had one name, and I couldn't even find their addresses. Senior, thank you for your hard work. Don't be polite, what I did is nothing. By the way, have you discovered anything this time? Li Jie smiled, took out the few coins he picked up, and showed them to her. Just these few coins? Yes. Just a few coins. Suyisha thought for a while and said, Li Jie, I don't think it's possible. It's too much luck. Do you have any clues? We should analyze and study all the monasteries we have heard about. First, we should eliminate all the impossible ones, then select the most likely ones, and then search them one by one according to the probability. This will make the efficiency faster. Although she felt that treasure hunting was a bit unreliable, she could guess that Li Jie would go to the Czech Republic to hunt for treasure, so he must have grasped certain clues. No one would do the stupid thing of looking for a needle in a haystack. Li Jie glanced at Suyisha, nodded and said, I have the same plan, so I need your help. He was so picky about translators in the past just to avoid ownership disputes after discovering the treasure. Even if he signed an employment contract, it would be troublesome if the other party got really greedy and insisted on getting a piece of the pie. But now it seems that Suyisha can still be trusted to a certain extent. What do you need me to do? Suyisha asked immediately. Li Jie checked the time and said, don't worry, it's almost 6 o'clock. Let's have dinner first and then talk about it afterward. They called for room service and ordered some food. Li Jie and Suyisha ate briefly. After eating, Li Jie went back to the room, took the computer over, opened Google Maps, and said to Suyisha, Senior sister, help me find the locations of all the monasteries on the map. Don't be suspicious when you employ people, don't use people when you are suspicious. There are so many monasteries, and if he has to rely on him alone without anyone to help him, he may not be able to find it yet. Besides, without Suyisha, he couldn't even use Google Maps, because some monasteries only have Czech names and no English names. After working for more than an hour, the two people found the locations of 7 monasteries on Google Maps. The remaining 3 monasteries only had names but no addresses, and they could not be found on Google Maps. After Li Jie studied these 7 monasteries, he eliminated 3 more, and finally only 4 monasteries remained. The Trappist Monastery, the Monastery of Clatruby. Li Jie recited the names of these 4 monasteries, thoughtfully. Suyisha glanced at him and said, "Why don't I go and ask around tomorrow? I should be able to find some monasteries." Li Jie shook his head and said, "Stop looking. There are probably only these famous monasteries. After I finish looking for these 4 monasteries, if we still don't find anything, let's go back to China." Li Jie found that his thinking before coming was a bit simple. He just wanted to search all the monasteries in the Czech Republic, and he would definitely find the monastery with the treasure buried there. But now it seems that if the treasure was buried in an unknown abandoned monastery, and the monastery only became famous after the treasure was discovered, then it would really be possible to find it. Now he can only bet that the treasure is buried in a well-known monastery. The English name Clatruby Monastery translates into Chinese as Clatruby Monastery. Suyisha learned about this monastery in the afternoon. Repeatedly chanting the name of this monastery, Li Jie felt vaguely familiar, and he decided to go to this monastery tomorrow. The monastery of Clatruby is located in western Bohemia and is a very famous monastery. Li Jie asked Suyisha to help him check the information about this monastery on the internet and found that it was established by a Duke of Bohemia in 1115. It was located on the trade route between Prague and Nuremberg in medieval Europe. Has a strategic position. Therefore, the monastery was very wealthy from the beginning, and the monks here owned numerous properties and titles. Thanks to Yihuaran for the 1,700-point reward, thanks to Uncle Yifeng, Mao Tu Hua Xiao, and Feng Ji Unzhuang Xian Miao for the 500-point reward, thanks to Yilan, It 00, the sword immortal, will kill the gods for you today. Mr. Wutong is very satisfied, thanks to 3 egg tarts, Brother Huan Xing, Book Friends 201903251218411051 and others. Thank you for your support. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanzhe. Chapter 147. The wealth and power of the monastery grew exponentially, reaching its peak in the 14th century, when the monastery's income and territory rivaled those of the king. After reading the information, Li Jie paid more attention to this monastery. He had a hunch that the treasure might be buried in this monastery. On February 1st, Li Jie took the train to Pilsen early in the morning. Pilsen is located in the western part of the Bohemian region of the Czech Republic, about 90 kilometers away from the capital Prague. It is the capital of Pilsen state and the 4th largest city in the country. The famous Pilsner beer originated in Pilsen in the 19th century and is known as the 3 famous Czech wines. After taking an hour-and-a-half train to reach Pilsen, Li Jie took a taxi to Clatruby Monastery. Clatruby Monastery is located on the outskirts of Pilsen. It is surrounded by green trees and beautiful scenery. Many people come here for a walk. After arriving at the monastery in Clatruby, after getting out of the taxi, Li Jie took the metal detector and started walking in the woods near the monastery. After walking around for more than an hour, I searched the woods on the north side of the monastery and only found some rusty nails, iron pieces, screws, and other waste products. Li Jie stopped temporarily and came to a tree stump, ready to sit down and drink some water. But as soon as he sat down, the metal detector he placed aside started beeping. Any more discoveries? I hope it won't be a waste this time. Li Jie stopped drinking. He took a small shovel and started digging at the alarm point. When he dug about 10 centimeters deep, he couldn't help but feel refreshed, and a touch of golden color was revealed. He hurriedly dug twice more, and a gold coin was dug out. Li Jie picked up the gold coin from the small pit, wiped off the dirt on it, and found that it was a gold coin with a diameter of about 3 centimeters and a weight of about 3 grams. On the front was a figure wearing a crown and riding a horse. A man wielding a sword with a cross printed on the back. Although it has been buried in the soil for many years, this gold coin is still yellow and its appearance is well preserved. Found the treasure location? Li Jie was extremely excited. It was not easy. He finally found something. He remembered the news he had read saying that most of the treasure found were silver coins, but there were also 2 gold coins. The value of that treasure is about 40 to 50 million. 40 to 50 million will be enough for an ordinary person to achieve financial freedom even in more than 10 years, let alone now. Li Jie quickly took a small shovel and dug harder. However, after digging for another long time, the pit was dug to a depth of 30 or 40 centimeters, but no gold coins were found. He picked up the metal detector again and scanned the pit. This time it didn't alarm either. It could also be buried nearby, and the gold coin just accidentally fell here. So, Li Jie expanded the scope and scanned the area dozens of meters around. This time the metal detector rang twice, but what he found were not gold coins, but a rusty iron nail and a turnbuckle. Unwilling to be reconciled, he simply took a small shovel and started digging around the pit. A young couple walking hand in hand passed by and saw Li Jie digging, and cast a curious look. This couple looks to be in their mid-20s, but Westerners are more precocious, and 15 or 16-year-olds look like they are in their 20s. It is estimated that the 2 of them are no more than 20 years old. The boy pulled his girlfriend over and said something to Li Jie. But what he spoke was neither English nor Czech. It should be Slovak, Hungarian, or other languages. Li Jie couldn't understand it at all. He tried to say hello to the other party in English. This time the boy understood it, and the tall one also said, hello in English. So next, the 2 parties briefly communicated a few words in English. It's just that this Czech boy's English level is much worse than Li Jie's. He could only say some simple sentences such as hello, nice to meet you, where are you from, etc., and the accent was very strong, which made Li Jie find it difficult to listen. In fact, it is better in the Czech Republic, that is, the capital Prague, because it is a tourist city. Many Czechs, such as taxi drivers and waiters, can speak some simple English, but in many small cities they do not speak English at all. So it's okay just for traveling, but if you really come to the Czech Republic to do business, it will be very troublesome without a translator who can speak Czech. The boy chatted with Li Jie for a few words and roughly understood that Li Jie was looking for something. He shrugged disapprovingly and said something. This sentence was not in English, and Li Jie didn't understand it at all, but he could guess the general meaning, which was that there could be something good in it. After saying that, the boy and Li Jie smiled and waved their hands, then took their girlfriend and left. Seeing that the other party left, Li Jie lowered his head and started digging again. After spending a few days in the Czech Republic, he felt that the Czech people were quite enthusiastic. If you are at some scenic spots, you want to know the history of these ancient buildings. You don't even need to ask a professional tour guide. Just find a local Czech and ask them. As long as they are not in a hurry, they will be proud to tell you about the history of those buildings. And still take the trouble. After digging for almost half an hour, but still finding nothing, Li Jie finally gave up. In fact, he was just digging with a sense of luck. The metal detector he bought is considered to be the best in quality and detection effect among handheld ones. It can detect 40 centimeters deep underground. The news said that the treasure was not buried very deep, and if the detector still failed to find it after scanning it, it meant that there was no hope. It seems that the gold coin he found has nothing to do with the treasure. It was just discovered by chance. Li Jie sighed, put down the metal detector and small shovel, sat down on the tree stump, and prepared to rest for a while. He took out a bottle of water from the backpack behind him, opened it, and took a few sips. After drinking the water, Li Jie took out the gold coin he dug up before and looked at it carefully. Although he could not recognize the specific age and origin of this gold coin, he could roughly tell that it was a medieval gold coin. The suppression level was very rough and was far less exquisite than the gold coins pressed by modern industrial machinery. Therefore, this gold coin should be worth some money, but no matter how valuable it is, there is only one gold coin, and its value is limited after all. After resting for more than 10 minutes, Li Jie picked up the metal detector and small shovel and continued to circle around the monastery. He kept searching for more than 4 hours. At about 1 p.m., he took a metal detector and swept almost all the woods and grasslands near the monastery. He still found no treasure. The only gain was that he found it again. 2 silver coins. Ask for votes and favorites. In addition, it will be available after 12 noon on Friday the 16th, so there will be no updates tomorrow morning. We'll update after 12 o'clock on the 16th. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanjie. Chapter 149. These 2 silver coins were found in a small tree hole. The surface of the silver coins was severely worn and corroded, and the patterns were blurred. They should not be worth much anymore. Li Jie turned off the metal detector and decided not to go any further. He planned to find a restaurant nearby for a quick bite and then return to Prague. The treasure should not be in this monastery either. He would have to visit other monasteries tomorrow. In fact, he was looking forward to the search before coming. After all, the monastery in Kladruby was historically the richest monastery in the Czech Republic, and it was the most likely place where the treasure was buried. But it turned out that he thought too much. But just when Li Jie was about to leave, he encountered 2 uninvited guests, one big and one small, 2 dirty wild boars with grey manes. The big wild boar weighs more than 300 kilograms and has 2 very long tusks, while the small wild boar also weighs more than 100 kilograms. Encountering a wild boar in the wild is a relatively dangerous thing. This thing has a very strong fighting power. Adult male wild boars are not willing to provoke even tigers and lions. But after seeing the wild boar, Li Jie's face showed a hint of joy, because the treasure was not discovered by anyone at first, but by a wild boar. In the animal kingdom, wild boar noses are actually more sensitive than dogs. Sometimes they can even dig 3 feet into the ground when they smell something good. Wild boars can often dig out some good things from the ground, such as medieval gold and silver coins. These 2 wild boars didn't have any aggressive tendencies. After taking a look at Li Jie, they started to go around on their own. Looking at the 2 wild boars foraging freely, Li Jie immediately decided not to leave yet. He planned to follow the 2 wild boars for a while to see if he could find anything unexpected. However, he did not dare to follow too closely. Although wild boars generally do not attack humans, they are capable of attacking to a certain extent. If you make them feel threatened or dangerous, they may attack you. Li Jie is still very self-aware. He is just an ordinary person with slightly better physical fitness. He will definitely not be able to PK this big wild boar weighing more than 300 kilograms. If it really charges, he can only think about how to escape and save his life. He kept a distance of more than 10 meters from the 2 wild boars and followed them. Whenever the 2 wild boars passed by, he went over and scanned them with a metal detector. Once Li Jie followed a little closer, the metal detector in his hand suddenly beeped, and the big wild boar that was looking for food on the ground suddenly stopped and turned to look at him. Seeing the wild boar's cold eyes, Li Jie's heart skipped a beat and he almost ran away without turning around. Now he wants money, he has money, and he has 2 girls, both of whom are top-notch, but he has no intention of risking his life with this wild boar. But Li Jie still didn't run. He knew well that he couldn't run around at this time. If you run away, you are showing weakness, and the wild boar will catch up to you immediately. However, it won't do if you look at it hostilely. The wild boar will think that you are a threat to it, and it is very likely that you will not run away. Will attack you. He stood there and turned his head to the side, pretending to be relaxed and distracting the boar. The wild boar stared at him for a while, then turned his head and continued to search for food. Seeing that the wild boars were no longer staring at him, Li Jie let out a sigh of relief and then slowly backed away, getting a little further away from them. After this lesson, he no longer dared to follow too closely, but fell far behind the two wild boars. I kept walking like this for 15 or 6 minutes. I was already far away from the monastery, but I still didn't make any valuable discoveries. Just when Li Jie was hesitating whether to follow or not, the two wild boars made his decision for him, and they suddenly accelerated and ran away. Watching the two wild boars disappear deep into the woods, Li Jie sighed. His work was in vain again. He took a look at this remote and desolate forest, thinking that it was coming anyway, so he just walked around and looked for it. If he didn't find it again, he would give up. Li Jie held the metal detector and walked around casually. After a simple turn, he was about to turn off the detector and walk in. But when he was scanning a stone, the detector suddenly beeped again. Did he? Seeing that the detector was alarming, he took a small shovel to the stone, casually pulled the soil, and saw 2 gold coins exposed from the soil. Damn it, I found it. Li Jie suddenly became energetic and couldn't help but curse. He hurriedly dug around the stone, peeled off the relatively large stone, and found 2 shabby cloth bags after digging a few times. After digging out the 2 cloth bags from the soil, Li Jie opened one and found a small earthenware jar filled with gold and silver coins. He opened another bag and saw that there was also a small earthenware jar inside, and the jar was filled with silver coins. Finally found. Looking at the 2 clay pots, Li Jie was filled with excitement. In fact, he didn't have much hope for this trip to the Czech Republic. He thought that if he really couldn't find this hidden treasure, he would sell all his stocks after returning and use it to inject capital into Qwen technology and wait for the game to be launched next year. After making money, buy the stocks back. Unexpectedly, just when he was about to give up, he accidentally found the location of the treasure. False news is killing people. The news clearly stated that the treasure was dug out of the soil by wild boars in the woods near the monastery, but was this near the monastery? This forest is at least 3 or 4 miles away from the monastery. The number of gold coins is also wrong. The news said that mainly silver coins were found and only 2 gold coins were found. But even if I didn't pour the gold coins out of the jar and count them, I could estimate that there were 7 or 8 gold coins. Li Jie even doubted whether the treasure he found now was the one mentioned in the news, but no matter whether it was or not, he was not going to continue looking for it. People can't be too greedy. As long as there is something to gain, this trip it's enough if you didn't come to the Czech Republic in vain. He took off the backpack behind him, put the 2 clay pots into the backpack, and then took the detector and scanned the area carefully 2 or 3 times. After making sure there were no more discoveries, Li Jie put on his backpack and left. By the time he returned to the Prague hotel, it was already past 4 p.m. After returning to the room, Li Jie poured out all the gold and silver coins from the 2 jars. He counted carefully and found that there were 27 gold coins and 1,567 silver coins. Including the 1 and 2 gold coins found 2 times before, the total number of gold coins is 30. As for the 2 silver coins discovered before, they were not of much value because they were severely worn and corroded. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yunjie. Chapter 150. These gold and silver coins are well preserved and in good condition. Although Li Jie could not determine the age and origin of these gold and silver coins, They were undoubtedly historical relics with collection value, and their cultural value far exceeded their metal value. But for Li Jie, he dug them out not to collect them, but to cash them all in for urgently needed funds. But you have to think carefully about how to cash it out. According to Czech cultural heritage regulations, treasures discovered underground are 100% owned by the discoverer, and the museum needs to purchase them from the discoverer at market prices. The news also said that the discoverer sold the gold and silver coins to the museum, received a bonus worth several million euros, and became rich overnight. The question is whether he, a foreigner, will be treated differently when he negotiates with the Pilsen city government and the museum. If the other party directly confiscated the treasure, or lowered the value of the treasure, he would have no way to deal with it. As for going to court and suing the government in a foreign court, the possibility of winning can only be said to be, haha. Li Jie had seen a related news. A foreign treasure hunter found a box of gold in a European country. When the local government found out, the gold was forcibly confiscated. As for bringing this treasure back home directly or selling it at an auction house, that's not really possible. It will definitely not go through the customs when you return to your country. If it is searched and found, it will probably be confiscated directly. Looking for an auction house to sell? There are no big auction houses in the Czech Republic, and for small auction houses, even if items like cultural relics are put up for auction, if they cannot find a suitable buyer, there is a high possibility that they will not get the price or the auction will fail. This won't work, and that won't work either, so what should I do? Li Jie suddenly remembered a sentence, what should citizens do if they encounter difficulties overseas? Of course, you have to find the country and the embassy. Yes, go to the embassy. What is difficult for him is not a problem for the country at all. Li Jie decided to go to the embassy tomorrow. The problem was solved, and Li Jie's mood suddenly improved. After putting all the gold and silver coins in the safe in the room, he decided to go find Suyisha to celebrate. Compared with yesterday, Suyisha's injuries have improved a lot, and her legs and feet are more agile. Seeing that Li Jie wanted to help her, she refused, tiptoed back to the bed and sat down. Li Jie pulled the chair in front of the desk and sat down beside it. Why, did you find anything on this trip today? Suyisha noticed that there was an obvious smile on the corner of his mouth, and he looked in a good mood. Well, I found it, Li Jie smiled and nodded. He could actually hide it from Suyisha, but that would be a bit too much. Just find it, Suyisha also smiled, feeling happy for him. She didn't ask him what he found, though. Li Jie glanced at her and said, Senior sister, don't you want to know what I found? Suyisha smiled and said, my mission to accompany you to the Czech Republic this time is to be responsible for translation. What you came for and what you found are not what I should be curious about. Li Jie looked at her thoughtfully. This girl gave him the impression of being a Japanese anime heroine in the past few days, with a sweet and cute look. Although she is in her early 20s, she is still very young, sweet, and cute, kawaii, and she also does a lot of things. Fewer silly things that make him laugh or cry. I can fall down after taking a shower, and I can fall down when I go to the bathroom. It's a bit like the naturally stupid lady in anime, and I can fall down even on the ground. But now it seems that she is much smarter than he thought, and is not as simple as she appears. Come to think of it, how can a girl who is already in her early 20s and has only half a foot in society be such a silly person? What girl doesn't have a little bit of caution? Li Jie took out a gold coin from his body and handed it to Suyisha with a smile. This gold coin is given to you so that we can share the joy together. This gold coin was the one he first discovered. Suyisha did not refuse, took the gold coin, looked at it carefully, and said with a smile, I will keep this gold coin well. She understood that this was the treasure Li Jie had discovered. In addition to the gold coin given to Suyisha, Li Jie also planned to keep the 2 gold coins he found for the second time. he would definitely have trouble getting through customs when he returned home with a large number of gold coins, but 1 or 2 would be fine. Then you don't have to continue looking for it tomorrow, right? Suyisha collected the gold coins and asked again. No more searching. We will return to China after staying for another 2 or 3 days. Li Jie smiled and suggested, Senior sister, let's have a good meal tonight and celebrate well. Okay, Suyisha agreed with a smile. Seeing Li Jie so happy made her happy too. It was said that they had a good meal, but because Suyisha had difficulty walking, the two of them did not go out to eat, but ordered room service. Roasted pig's trotters, grilled salmon, Czech roast duck, honey cheese, etc. Li Jie ordered more than 20 dishes and tried all the hotel's specialties. Seeing the two waiters busy setting up the dishes, Suyisha glanced at Li Jie and couldn't help but said, You order so much, we can't eat it. It's such a waste. Li Jie smiled nonchalantly and said, It's okay. It's a waste. Due to habit, Li Jie would not do those extravagant and wasteful things even after he had money, but it was different today. Who made him feel particularly good? After the meal was set, the two waiters pushed the food cart and left. Li Jie picked up the sobered red wine and poured a glass of wine for himself and Suyisha. Come, let's have a drink together first to celebrate. Okay, Suyisha smiled and picked up the wine glass. After clinking the glasses, the two of them drank. Then they both laughed at the same time. Li Jie poured another glass of red wine for Suyisha and chatted with her while eating. Senior sister, you are in your 2nd year of graduate school this year, right? Have you ever thought about what you will do after graduation? Continue to study, get a PhD, and become a female doctor? Suyisha smiled and shook her head. No, I won't study for a doctorate. She said in a joking tone, it's not that the more educated a woman is, the harder it is to marry. The most difficult thing to marry is a female doctor. I'm afraid I won't be able to get married if I get a PhD. Li Jie looked her over and said with a smile, I don't know if it is difficult for other female doctors to marry, but it will definitely not be difficult for you to marry. Why are you so sure? Who wouldn't want to marry such a beautiful female doctor? Who doesn't want to marry? Suyisha smiled lightly and said, just say nice things to coax me. How can anyone marry me? At this point, she glanced at him and said, will you marry me? Li Jie was stunned for a moment, then said with a smile, I do want to marry, but I'm afraid that my senior brother will fight for my life. Brother? I really didn't want to be a warm man when I was reborn. Author, Li Yuanjie. Chapter 151. Senior, you should have a boyfriend. I have a boyfriend who I have been with for more than 4 years, but he and I have broken up, Suyisha said calmly. Broke up? Li Jie was a little surprised. He guessed that Suyisha was having a conflict with her boyfriend, but he didn't expect that the two would break up. But he did not continue to ask. As an outsider, it is not appropriate to be too concerned about other people's emotional issues. Suyisha did not continue. She smiled and said, after graduation, I may choose to be a university teacher. I prefer the campus environment. It's pretty good. The campus environment is relatively simple, and the job of a university teacher is relatively easy. It's a very suitable career for girls. Li Jie picked up the red wine and got himself another glass of wine. Suyisha drank down the red wine in her hand, then handed the glass over, pour me another glass too. Just as Li Jie helped her Suyisha pour the red wine, her phone suddenly rang. When she took it out, she found that it was Josiah calling. So he said hello to Suyisha and went to the bathroom to answer the phone. Tsuyu, what's wrong with you? Honey, do you miss me? On the phone, Josiah's voice was particularly soft and charming. Li Jie smiled softly, of course I miss you. Who wouldn't want to be such a charming, beautiful, considerate, and caring little lover? Husband, I miss you too. When will you come back? Josio said coquettishly. Come on, the matter will be finished soon. I will go back in 3 or 2 days. Li Jie paused and said with a low voice, when the time comes, I will make up for all the delays. Yeah, Josio hummed coquettishly. Honey, how about we play that game again? Forget it, Li Jie refused with a smile. The game Josio was talking about was the telephone lover game that she played last time. But this thing only needs to be experienced once. It's so shameful and wasteful to use your hands after you have 2 beautiful girlfriends. As a good man like Li Jie, of course he would keep his savings and hand them over to his girlfriend. He would never do such a wasteful and shameful thing. 20 minutes later, Li Jie hung up the phone, smiled and shook his head. I don't know why, but the frequency of Josio's phone calls in the past 2 days is obviously a bit high. I would call him 4 or 5 times a day. Before, she only hit 1 or 2 a day. Do you really miss him? Li Jie put away his phone and prepared to leave the bathroom. Suddenly, a small black object fell from above and landed at his feet. Li Jie took a look at the small black object on the ground and couldn't help but be stunned. This is a very sexy little bra. Looking at this little underwear, his first reaction was that he didn't expect Suyisha, who usually looks like a sweet and cute little girl, to like such sexy underwear. And the second reaction is that Sister Yu still knows how to play. Li Jie couldn't help pick up the girl's underwear, so he left immediately. But he thought again, what if Suyisha mistakenly thought that it was him who knocked off her underwear? Isn't it a bit unfair to be misunderstood for nothing? Li Jie thought for a while, then picked up the underwear and hung it back on the clothes drying pole. Back in the room, Li Jie unexpectedly discovered that the entire bottle of red wine had been drank. Before he left, there was still more than half of the bottle. Seeing Suyisha drinking from bottles of wine again, he couldn't help frowning. Senior sister, why are you drinking so much again? You are in a bad mood. Suyisha looked up at him and said with a smile, Li Jie, are you back? Although she was smiling, her smile was full of bitterness. Senior sister, you'd better drink less, Li Jie advised. Something must have happened when he left. Li Jie, don't worry, I didn't drink too much. After Suyisha finished speaking, she opened another can of beer and handed it to him. Aren't you happy today? Come and drink with us. The more people drink, the more they say they haven't drunk enough. Li Jie shook his head in his heart, reached out to take the wine, and drank with her. He could tell that Suyisha just needed someone to drink with her. Do you think society can change a person that much? Why does the same person look one way in school and then become another person after entering society? Suyisha's tone was a little ethereal, as if she was talking to Li Jie, spoke as if talking to himself. Li Jie glanced at her and said in a somewhat sighing tone, society will not change anything. People become themselves. Not everyone will be the same as before, and not everyone will remain the same forever as you hope, but no matter how you change, you must keep your true heart and be worthy of your conscience. Over the past 10 years, he himself has been changing, and he has been changing, but there is one thing that he has always insisted on, which is to show your heart to your heart and don't let down the people who are good to you. Xiao Qiao and Josio, as long as they stay with him, he will protect them and never abandon them. This is what Li Jie sticks to, and the bottom line he sticks to as a human being. Yes. Become a person. He has changed, and so have I. Suyisha came back to her senses and smiled. Come, let's drink. She picked up the beer. Okay, let's drink. Li Jie smiled, picked up the beer, and touched it with her. 10 minutes ago. Just as Li Jie went to the bathroom with his cell phone, Suyisha's cell phone also rang. She picked up the phone and took a look at it, then answered the call with a smile. Xiaonyo, are you looking for me? Sister, even if you have a quarrel with Xiewei, you can't let him come to your house to cause trouble. After hanging up the phone with her sister, Suyisha sat there blankly for a few minutes and then started drinking one cup after another. The red wine was sweet, but when she drank it, there was an indescribable bitterness in her mouth. She never expected that Siawei would come to her house to make trouble. He knew clearly that her mother had a bad heart and couldn't bear it. The man who said he would always protect her and never let anyone hurt her in the slightest has now become the person who hurt her the most. During this meal, Suyisha was drunk, and Li Jie also drank a little too much. He only had 2 bottles of beer. After drinking a little red wine and 3 cans of beer, he was a little drunk. To be honest, even with Li Jie's drinking capacity, he was embarrassed to say that he was from the Northeast. He can't even drink a girl from Hangzhou, it's such an embarrassment to the Northeastern men. Seeing Suyisha lying drunk on the ground, Li Jie walked over and helped her up, then carried her staggeringly to the bed. Why is it shaking? Because he was also a little dizzy. After putting Suyisha on the bed, Li Jie just wanted to get up and pull the quilt for her, but she suddenly hugged his neck.